international relations. And I'll be using web scraping tools to build a forecasting engine for conflict in international relations using real-time Twitter data.
Is it me? I don't know if it's the same order on your computer.
I think it's different. So
okay.
I think I'll just go through everyone. Will, do you want to go?
Sure. Hi, I'm Will. I'm a fourth year in sociology. I am currently using web scraping to collect newspaper articles from ProQuest. I've already done that. And as far as other computational stuff, I'm going to start looking more into sentiment analysis and more detailed sort of text analysis methods in the future.
Cool. Scott?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Scott. I'm a assistant professor here in sociology, and it was kind of interesting because I was hired last year, and as part of my interview, I was like, one of the things I want to do is start this computational social science working group. And I found out when I got here that Todd and Will had already been acting on it. So and I already kind of had the machinery put together to get it running. So I've actually just kind of come on board as somebody who just loves computational social science and wants to be part of this. In terms of my own research, I've used computational methods in a number of ways. I've done agent-based modeling of network reactions to various attack strategies. I've scraped illegal drug exchange data from the darknet, and that's been an ongoing project for me for some time. I also use text analysis and sentiment analysis in various projects and grants as well, and I've developed methods for statistical network modeling. Yeah, so those are the things I work on.
Cool. Grace?
Hi, my name's Grace. I'm a first year sociology PhD student. I am a baby, so I don't really have any experience with actual doing computational science, but I did my undergraduate research thesis on a qualitative analysis of a Reddit forum. So I'm really interested in learning how to scrape and do text analysis off of social media forums. And I'm also really interested in kind of curricula pages on websites and being able to grasp like big amounts of data from like curricula and relate that to kind of what students are learning. So that's kind of where my interests are with computational methods.
Cool, thanks for sharing. Sorry if I butcher your name, but Apurba?
Apurba?
Apurba, yeah.
No. My name is Apurba Chakraborty. I don't know if I can count as high as what year I am in political science anymore. And I don't have actually an application for this in terms of my research. I'm just looking into expanding kind of my tool set. So.
No, thanks for joining us. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Alexis?
Hi, I'm Alexis. I am a fifth year in the sociology department. I study racial and ethnic disparities in mental health, and I know nothing about computational social sciences, but I have noticed that sometimes different populations will talk about mental health on social media, and so I'm really interested in learning more about web scraping and text analysis because I think that that could be an interesting way to think about use what I study and do some interesting data analyses moving forward.
Andreas?
Hi, my name is Andreas. I'm in the political science department. I am interested in, I guess, both developing this as a tool that I can use for the future, given the state of the academic job market. And should I get an academic job, I would like to use this to look at to use web scraping to look at how different political parties frame family policy and childcare issues.
Oh, and did you mention what department you're from?
I'm in political science.
Cool.
Just upstairs.
Nice. Devin?
Hey, I'm Devin. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a fourth year in political science. I'm kind of like everyone. It's adding to my skill sets, both in getting familiar with Python. If I just download Python, that will be progress. Mostly familiar with R and doing kind of network analysis in R and more standard statistical analyses, but also looking to automate a lot of the kind of repetitive searches and getting information online that I have to do for my research.
Cool, happy to have you. Micah?
Hello, I'm Micah. I'm a third year in the sociology program here at UNC. In the past, I flirted with computational methods. I did a bunch of web scraping on what I thought would be my master's thesis, which I ended up abandoning shortly after collecting all of the text I wanted to. And so now I'm just here to see if I can rekindle the fire that first drew me to web scraping and computational stuff, and maybe get some inspiration from all of you.
Well, we're hoping to do that, Micah. Fatima?
Hi, I'm Fatma Tuma in the sociology department, and I'm a third-year student. And I had attempted this once before, and it didn't go so well, so I'm hoping this will help me a bit more. I tried to scrape state-level policies about immigration, and it just kind of, it fell apart. I don't know how to use Python very well, so I'm hoping to get that project back up and working properly this time.
Thanks for joining us, then. Elena?
Hi, I'm a political scientist. It's my second year in a PhD program. I study contentious politics, revolutions, protest movements in autocracies. So primarily I do surveys and survey experiments, but it's getting more and more complicated to collect data with surveys in the countries like Russia or Belarus. So I'm looking for alternative ways of doing the same thing with web scraping. And I'm also in a certificate program on computational linguistics. So I hope to do something with textual analysis, sentiments analysis. Yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Jacob?
Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm a first year in the sociology department's grad program. Like Grace, I'm also new, so I don't have any like cool research or anything going on or too much experience with computational sociology. But for my undergrad thesis, I did do some very basic web scraping and text analysis. So I'm excited to learn more.
Cool, cool. Jay? Oh, Jay can't talk, but I'll say this. He wrote a description. Can't talk, but I'm Jay, 5th year in the School of Education, studying school segregation, learning some Python to do optimizations and simulations for student assignment for dissertation work. That's pretty cool, simulations. I know Scott has a lot more knowledge on that than probably all of us in this room. Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a fourth year student in the sociology department. I'm interested in Latin American migration and human trafficking. I've primarily worked with interviews, but for my dissertation work, I'm thinking that's being less and less plausible. So I'm thinking that focusing more on how organizations who work with trafficked persons, how they're framing the topic and their responses. So I'm looking into these methods for that.
Oh, that's cool, especially during this time when it's difficult to interact with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Vitaly?
Hey, I'm a second year education student, and I also work on like school segregation and student assignment. So hopefully I'll make these things useful for me some way.
Oh, cool, cool. Thank you for introducing yourselves, everyone. So I think the way Will and I are going to be doing this is kind of we'll be leading one workshop and then I'll be leading the next one, vice versa. And you all have a schedule online that I sent out. And feel free to like share it as well to like any colleagues or friends who would be interested in coming on board to this workshop. So I think that should be it, unless I'm missing anything. But I think I'll hand it off to Will to kind of lead the charge in this first introduction to web scraping.
All right, fantastic. Thanks everyone for being here. This is awesome. So the thing that we're going to focus on today is installing Anaconda and then getting the web scraping framework called Selenium set up. And that can be a surprisingly difficult process sometimes. Personally, I have spent many hours troubleshooting my own Python installation and getting it to work, and then failing to get it to work, and then putting more hours into actually getting it to work. So the purpose of today is to help people get it actually set up and working in the first place so that we can move towards actually web scraping in the later workshops. So the first thing that I will ask you to do is I will screen share real quick. Whoop. Todd, could you, there we go. So there are two primary ways that people do sort of screen scraping, is what we would call it. And the first way is through, where is this one? I think it's the right one. So the first one is through, I'm just making sure you can see the Anaconda documentation page. That's the shared screen. Yes? Okay, cool. So the first one is through, generally people use something called Beautiful Soup. And what Beautiful Soup does is it parses text on page, and it parses the website structure, and you can use that to navigate through websites and download information off of them. Beautiful Soup is a little simpler, but it's somewhat more limited, and for me personally, it's less intuitive. The other way that people web scrape, screen scrape, is through something called Selenium. So Selenium is available in Python, in R, and in a lot of different programming languages, but it is primarily written in Java. Today we'll be doing it in Python, and it's meant to be a tool for people to test their websites with. It's a thing for people to navigate around their websites and to see where things break, see what things work, and to troubleshoot commercial websites. Its use as web scraping is super convenient, but actually secondary. It's not the primary purpose of it. So eventually, when you look online and start learning Selenium and using it, you'll see some salty Java devs who are like, oh, all these people are using it for this thing that we don't mean it to be, but you can just ignore them and then use whatever useful code they have. So we're going to be installing Anaconda and then setting up Selenium. And then the sort of second part that I wanted to mention before we got really far into it is the way that Selenium works is it remotely drives a web page. So Selenium, the way you use it, you using Python navigate around a web page as a user would. So in Selenium, you click on buttons, you enter keystrokes, you interact with a web page as a normal human does. So what that means is you have to install something that tells Selenium how to interact with a particular web page. And it does that in really specific ways that are sometimes a little unintuitive. And we'll talk about those more in some of the later workshops. But the first thing that I'll ask you to do is to install Anaconda, which might take a few minutes. And you can find Anaconda just on, if you just Google Python Anaconda, you'll want to download the individual edition. And Anaconda is a package and data science management system. There's a few ways to deal with packages in Python. The first one is manually through pip, which I would definitely not recommend you do. Anaconda is much easier. So what it will do is it will give you a framework for managing all the little different packages, like Selenium would be one, Jupyter Notebooks would be another one, your particular IDE, your developer environment is another one. It gives you a good way to manage those packages and to manage the versioning of them too, because that's something you have to worry about a lot. It's particular versions, and sometimes versions work with updates, sometimes they don't. And Anaconda is a much, much easier way to go. So you'll want to just go to the Anaconda website and download it and then try to install it. Alexis, I know you had an older version and are on a Mac, right?
Yeah, and I also just put a question in the chat because it looks like I have Anaconda Navigator already on my computer.
Okay.
And Rodeo. So I don't know if that's the same thing as what you're having us download, or if I need to.
I think it is. So if you open up Anaconda Navigator, do you see something? Let's see. It should be opening. Whoop.
I'm trying to open this on my computer.
Good. Let's see if it starts to work. It's been a while since I've actually opened up, and there it goes. Is this what you see when you open Anaconda Navigator?
Well, we just see your main screen.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I think you would have to share your screen, not the specific website.
Oop.
Oh, we saw something.
There we go. I just switched it to a different monitor. There we are. Whoop. There.
Okay. So my
oh my God, this is
computer.
enormous.
Yeah, and my computer is telling me that Anaconda Navigator isn't responding, so I can't open it. So, oh wait, never mind. It opened. And yes, I see what you see, I think.
There we go. I have two different screen resolutions on my monitors, and when I move from one of them to the other, it just becomes this enormous mess. So I think sharing the right screen now.
Yeah. Wait, can you scroll down on your screen, Will?
Yeah, let me, actually, I'm going to stop screen sharing and then just reshare the correct one.
Mm-hmm.
After like a month of teaching on Zoom, you'd think I'd have a good handle on this, but.
Yeah, that's what I see, yeah.
Okay, so after you install, so you have it installed just fine.
Okay.
I'm going to wait for people to get this installed so that we can move forward. Does anybody not have this installed yet?
Andreas asked whether he wants the graphical or the command line installer.
Graphical, unless command line is for, I don't actually know of why you would really want the command line version. I would just say graphical.
I have a quick question about like what Anaconda is versus pip. Is this basically like the user interface that you work with to use Python, and the way you like have RStudio for R, or like what is Anaconda?
Yeah. Pip? So it's a lot like RStudio for R. Pip is an older version of this. except it's all done through the command line, and it's much less intuitive and much more prone to breaking. And personally, I use pip as little as possible. One thing that eventually starts coming into play is you can use pip within an Anaconda installation. So they're not mutually exclusive. But for most cases, Anaconda is just a lot easier to use than pip is.
Thanks, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
I guess I would also put in that the added benefit of Anaconda comes in with a slew of packages already, like pandas. It doesn't come with Selenium because Selenium is its own thing, but it's, as you can see, there's a lot it comes along with. Like, I personally use Spider as my IDE, like user interface. Jupyter is another one. But you could, as you can see, you could run a lot of different programs on this. Yeah, but this is kind of like a whole, you can kind of think of Anaconda as a whole slew of packages and applications. And we're just going to use a small part of that in terms of like using Python. So it's maybe not the most efficient way of downloading, but for our purposes, it's fine.
And it's usually the most efficient in terms of the actual time that you put into managing it. In terms of the space on your computer, maybe not, but it saves hours and hours of headache to do it through Anaconda rather than through pip. It's much, much, much easier. All right, is anybody still working on getting Anaconda installed?
I'm just going a little slow though. I don't think there's any issues.
Sure, yeah, I'm just gonna
mine's still
wait.
running.
All right, I'm just gonna wait for everybody to get it installed before moving forward.
Can I ask another question? I don't want to jump in front of people, but since we're waiting.
Definitely. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the differences, like just succinctly, between kind of R and Python and Stata, just as like a frame for using Python? So like my sense is that Python's not open source in the way that R is, or at least there's like more structure to it, so you don't have like weird package errors. So it's like standardized in the way that Stata is, but like still not expensive and private or something like that.
So for Python, so Scott may be able to talk a little bit more about this, but personally I moved from Python to R, so I learned Python first. Python is a very general purpose programming language in a way that R isn't. And it's used for many, many, many things beyond sort of the scientific computing in the way that R is mostly focused on scientific computing. For me personally, I find Python code more intuitive and more easy to write. But it does have some slightly less intuitive parts, like I still haven't figured out what a comprehension is, which is a particular type of code structure in Python that personally I find very confusing. But Python is much, much more general purpose than R. And most things in Python are open source. I would, however, say that it's, in my experience, less reliable than R and less reliable than Stata, but there's also an enormous amount of variance. Certain fields, I think like a lot of the machine learning stuff is written primarily for Python. So that stuff will be much more stable in Python than R because it's actively worked on. And it's a place where that field really focuses their energy is in the Python environment. So generally, things can be a little wonky in Python, but depending on the field and the particular thing you're trying to do and how much development there is in that area, it can be really, really stable, really well documented, and very, very easy to use.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that, Will, is, you know, kind of like, it depends where you fall on the spectrum of data analysis versus programming and data management, which one you're going to prefer. Like Python and R are both pretty open source, but like you were saying, R has much more infrastructure for statistical analysis, whereas in Python, you have to write it from scratch. On the other hand, R doesn't have as much for machine learning and oftentimes natural language processing, where Python has more development. I think Python was also written with the intention to be easy to write and easy to read, whereas R didn't have that focus. It was more focused on building infrastructure for statistical data management. And the other big difference, in my opinion, is R is really bad at data management in comparison to Python. So if you're writing big processes for big data functions or long loops in R, you have to look towards vectorization. Otherwise, you lose exponential computing time. Python, it's much, much easier to write efficient code.
Awesome, thanks. And mine's downloaded now, so I don't know about other people.
And one thing that I do want to highlight is that I don't actually know, I bet there are ways to write vectorized programs in Python, but for any work I've ever done in Python, I've just done it through loops because it's just how you write in Python much more than you do in R. And
yeah, the efficiency gains for vectorization in Python are really small compared to R.
It's really natural to write loops in Python. It just works, and it's a super basic part of writing in Python. All right, is anybody still working on installing Anaconda? Okay, great. So the next step of getting Selenium to work is you're going to want to go to the Anaconda Navigator and then go to Environments. I have a number of environments here. The one that we're mostly concerned of right now is the root environment, which it should just automatically go to. So you'll see all of these things over here. These are all the packages that are installed into Anaconda. If you haven't installed anything yet, it's just sort of the base ones that are there. And it comes with a fair amount. What we're going to want to do for installing Selenium is you can click the arrow next to base root and then click Open Terminal. That should pop up a terminal in a second. There it is. Oop, it's just on the different screen. Bring that over. There we go. And this is how we will be installing Selenium. The second part of installing Selenium is you're going to want to go to the Anaconda website where we can check out CondaForge. So the way that you can install most of these packages within Python and Anaconda specifically is, I find the most stable way to do it is to do it through CondaForge, which is a repository for packages that is very regularly updated and managed. You can get things from other places. Often it works, but I find CondaForge to be by far the most stable. So you go to this website, anaconda.org/CondaForge. And the way that we'll find the particular package that we want is just by searching for Selenium. We'll get to this page. And the main thing that you want to look for when you are downloading a package like this is you want to find the package with the most downloads usually that has been updated regularly. So we'll pick the first one because it has by far the most downloads. We'll wonder where this took us. There we go. That'll bring us to this page. So this was last updated 5 months ago. That's not bad. If it were updated a number of years ago, we would probably look for something else. So the way that you actually install this is if you scroll down a bit, you'll see this series of code here. The way that you install Selenium into Anaconda is you can copy that, and then you can paste it into this. And that should, ooh, I actually sort of wish I didn't do that. I hope it doesn't screw up my Python. But you paste it into there, and that should actually, there we go.
So, well,
yes.
It says run one of the following. How do you know which one to choose?
I've only ever done the first one, and it's always worked.
Okay.
So I'm not actually entirely sure what the point of the other ones are. I'm sure there is a point, but I'm not sure what it is.
Okay. So we just paste it and then press enter?
Yep, just paste it and press enter. It's possible that it could take a bit. It's possible that it goes really fast. It sort of varies.
And what about Mac users? How do it?
For Mac users, it should work the same way.
I just did it on a Mac and it's fine.
Yeah, and where do you get this screen? I'm using Bash. Probably it's the wrong thing to do.
Oh, you do it through the just through the Anaconda. So you go to the environments.
Oh, right, yeah, and open with Python, right?
Yeah, and then you can just open the terminal through the Anaconda Navigator.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mine is saying that it wants to update the Conda package. That's cool.
Yes.
Okay.
If you already have a very well developed Python environment, then you want to be careful saying yes to Anaconda saying, do you want to update all these things? If you blanket update your packages, that can completely break your Python installation. So if you already have a lot of stuff installed and working, then you would want to do it in its own specific environment instead, so that you don't just completely destroy your Python environment. And I know that because I've done that before, and it's miserable. And that's also why when I hit enter, I was like, oh God, oh no. And immediately just canceled it.
I have another question. It says, current user does not have write permissions to the target environment. And I don't know how to undo it.
I have absolutely no idea what that means, but we can Google it.
Are you running Python as an administrator, Fatima?
Yeah, I think so. I'm in the only profile on my computer. Is that how it works?
It might not have administrator privileges. So what you probably want to do is close Anaconda. So completely close out of it and then open it up with administrator privileges specifically.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
Also,
hi. I did everything and I think that it's working, but I don't know. How do I know if Selenium installed properly?
You should be able to find it in the Anaconda Navigator window. If you just search for Selenium, it should pop up.
I think I had to hit like update index before it would show up.
Did it show up? Awesome.
Yes.
So when I click the base root, I'm not getting the command prompt to come up. Yeah.
So when you hit open terminal, it doesn't come up?
Yeah.
That's weird. I have not run into that before. Let's take a look. One thing is, what's it called? You could try, are you on Windows?
Yes. Yeah.
See if you can find the Anaconda prompt and see if that will pop up.
Also, if you go to the home in the Anaconda Navigator, it should give you an option to just launch the command line directly. Doesn't mine, at least.
And if nothing else, the classic, just restart the computer and see if it starts working is always a good choice. Some of these things can be surprisingly finicky for that sort of thing. Hey, any other issues with this? This can, like I said before, it took me a long time to get this working on my girlfriend's computer, and I've done this before more times than I'd like. So any issues, just ask. Anthony, any luck?
Yeah, that works okay.
Cool.
Vitaly asked the question of, can you show what code you put into the terminal?
Yes. So I will show you the code. So the way to get it is you go to anaconda.org/condaforge. I will go back to here. And then you search for Selenium. That should bring you to this page where you see all the different Selenium packages you can download. You'll want to go to the one that is the most popular. For whatever reason, that doesn't work for me. And then this is the page for Selenium for the most popular one. And it is this first one that I used to install Selenium in Anaconda.
So what is an environment exactly?
So an environment, so just as an example, the base root environment of Anaconda is every single package that you have installed in Anaconda. And it's one that is, you generally don't want to mess with too much. For example, my topic modeling environment, it'll take a minute to load, but the topic modeling environment is it pulls the packages from the base root environment. It's self-contained, and you choose which packages it contains within it. So instead of having everything, you just have the ones that are relevant to what you want. And a good part about it is you can use pip or other things to mess around within that particular environment, install things, and you don't actually ruin your Python installation at its base. It's its own self-contained thing.
So you recommend that for every project we do, we create a separate environment?
I think that depends on individuals, how you like to work. I kind of do that, where I'll just make a particular environment for a project. It also sort of works based on the IDE you use and how those two things interact with each other.
What's IDE?
So an IDE is like Spider is an IDE. It's the development environment. So RStudio is an IDE.
Gotcha.
It's the thing that you write your code in. And so I use PyCharm. Todd uses Spider. There's a lot of different ones out there for Python. And those are all down to personal preferences. I use PyCharm because I had an engineering friend who told me to use it, and then I just started using it, and it's what I'm used to. Spider is perfectly fine. All right, just checking in to see if anybody's still working on getting Selenium installed. All right, great. The next step is we need to basically do this exact same process with Selenium with something called a driver. And this is the thing that you download to have Selenium communicate with the your web browser. So Chrome has its own driver. You need one specifically for Chrome, and that's called Chrome driver. Most people use Chrome. When you search around for code to troubleshoot Selenium or to figure out how to do something in Selenium, most of the time it's written with the Chrome driver in mind. There's one for Firefox called Gecko driver. It's a much cuter name. I like it, but most people don't use Firefox. I haven't actually looked into any other ones. I'm assuming that they're all out there. Chrome driver is the most stable though. So at least in my experience, it is. And most of the examples are written for Chrome. So we find that the exact same way. Chrome driver. Just search for that on Anaconda Cloud in Anaconda Forge. And so you can do this through Anaconda. You can also do this one manually. So you can go to the Chrome driver developer webpage and just download it and put it in the appropriate spot on your computer. It is much easier to do it through Anaconda though. So you just search for Chrome driver. This was updated a week ago. And you, exact same way, copy and paste that first line of code into the prompt, which I will not do. This will likely have many additional packages that it needs to install or to update. And while this is installing, there is one thing that is very useful to know about how Selenium works. So one thing to keep in mind is that, so the Chrome driver and Selenium only interact with the web page. They cannot access anything else on your computer. So this is mostly important for downloading things, which we'll get to in future workshops, is how to actually download stuff. But you have to set particular things. It's only a few lines of code, but you have to set the Chrome driver in Python to automatically accept downloads because of the limitations of what it can actually access in your computer. And so the last thing that we'll do after this sort of is downloaded for everybody is to try and get a instance of Chrome up and running and get the basic settings for actually downloading something shared. Let me just make sure my code still works. It's been a while.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
If I already have PyCharm installed, I can just use that?
You can.
Is it at all related to this Anaconda thing?
It can be. So have you...
But it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need to be, no.
Okay.
But you can, so I use PyCharm. You can import the environments from Anaconda into PyCharm, and you can connect them, basically, if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
It can be a little finicky. They've recently, the people who develop PyCharm and the people who develop Anaconda have worked together, and they've made it easier. It used to be really kind of a pain in the ass to do. It was not pleasant, but it's more recently they've sort of worked together, and I think they're actually partnered now. So it should be not quite as difficult as it used to be.
Okay, so there's really not a whole lot. So basically what's going to happen is I left all of these tags or whatever. So every day you come in, just leave a litter box, put it in the bag, and maybe take it out and truss it.
All right, is anybody still working on the Chrome driver? You also need to have Chrome installed.
Mine is still downloading.
Okay.
I know it's like 5 minutes already.
There's a lot that might potentially have to happen with Chrome driver. So it taking a few minutes is not unsurprising.
I have a quick question about the structure of Anaconda. So I'm under environments, and I created like a separate environment for the computational social science sociology group. And I opened the terminal from there and then installed Chrome driver.
Okay.
Is that any different from doing it through the base terminal, like going to the base folder and then going to the terminal and installing?
So I think what might end up happening with there is that it might not actually install in the base environment.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure about that, so just check that one and see what actually happened.
Yeah, they're both there.
Okay.
Both of them, but yeah, I was just curious. Thank you.
Sure. I'm troubleshooting my code right now.
So I'm okay. I've just installed.
Okay, fantastic. Is anybody still working on getting the Chrome driver installed?
So Devin asked the question of, so unlike RStudio, downloading Anaconda also downloads Python. Sorry if I missed something fundamental. No, I don't think we clarified. I guess Python is just a general language. So it's not something that you download per se. So it might be pretty confusing because R has it differently. You have to download R and then download RStudio. But I guess Anaconda just downloads a bunch of different types of development environments like RStudios, like Jupyter or Spider would be a couple of examples of those that you would just run as if it were RStudio, but you could just run Python on those. So yeah, it automatically downloads everything, which is why we're using it.
All right. Well, something is actually, Todd, do you have a working example of code to start a Chrome instance?
I could do that.
Mine broke in the last one for some reason.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Actually, in the last couple of weeks, I just had this working. That's bizarre.
Yeah, so do you just want me to show an example?
Yeah, show an example
okay.
of sort of how to start a Chrome instance.
Yes.
Then the preferences for automatically downloading things so that you can skip the interactive window. That you just install it to a directory on your computer.
I guess I don't have that available at the moment for myself, but I do have code that shows it working, running in Spider. That works. If you make me the host, I could show you.
I may have gotten it working. Maybe not. Let's see. Nope. Okay. Yeah. I'll switch you to host. Cool. Sorry about that. I should troubleshoot this and see what happened.
Okay. Don't worry. These things get finicky. Okay. Well, I'll close your screen and open up mine.
Yes.
Let's see.
There we go.
All right. I'll just share this screen. Oh, that's RStudio. So this should be mine. I'll share this code with folks so everyone knows what they're doing. But Will, this is basically just a quick script I wrote up to go to a specific website, specifically this. It's just a website that is just an example of a website in which this, like an example of a website in which we would want to get data for. And this website just is a repository of a lot of newspaper articles of like Chicago between 1855 and 1938. and I just wrote a script to go for Python to open up a Chrome driver, a browser, and then grab all the links of this page for it, like links of every single one of these articles, because every page displays 10 newspaper articles. Oh, okay. It was a wrong Chrome driver version that Will mentioned. So for instance, here's one newspaper article that has its own URL. It's basically the link that you would use to go to this article itself for like future data collecting efforts. Is this what you were going for, Will?
I was thinking more basic than that, just how to open up a window that is being driven by Selenium.
Okay, I could just do that then. So
guys, it's about 4 o'clock, just as a heads up, so we might want to.
Yeah, we should wrap it up.
Yeah, so.
The code is very simple.
Yes. So basically, you would want to run from Selenium import WebDriver, which imports the package into your IDE, and then you would just run this code, which is driver equals webdriver.chrome. Oh, that is weird. Okay, I guess I'm having difficulty as well, but oh my gosh.
Question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you just show how you even got there, like how to make a script and like
oh
how to open Spider, just like before we get to the code, so I'm kind of like know how to start that process.
So one thing I think that we can do here is we can sort of call the workshop, because both of us have run into some odd issue with Chrome driver, probably some update that happened with it, and something weird is just happening. So I think we can probably call the workshop, but we can also stick around and help people with any issues that you're having, and also work through like opening Spider and getting this working if you want to stick around for that. Sorry that we ran into this issue. That was extremely odd, and something happened the last very recently to make that break. So sorry about that.
This is something we're going to go over in future workshops, like how to open a script.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
You can also try and do it on your own.
But we will go over that. And in the next one, we'll get this up and running. And now that everything is installed and hopefully working, we can go through that pretty quickly and sort of start working through how to open a web page and how to start accessing things on web pages and downloading them.
So just before we wrap up here, I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming. You know, computational social science is a very interdisciplinary field, and so having a ton of turnout from education and political science, I think, really is a boon to the kind of work and community that we're trying to develop here. Also, if you notice from the Google Docs, we're kind of, right now it's every other week we have these skill workshops towards web scraping, and in between is going to be kind of geared towards more substantive type things, whether discussion, learning, theory, whatever, or if you guys have projects you're working on now that you would like input on the methods or thinking through how to apply a computational approach, we welcome submissions for that. You know, we're going to talk about this, I think, right after this meeting about what we want to do for the next meeting. But if any of you guys have things that are currently in progress or just thought projects that deal with computational social science, let Todd, Will, or I know, and we can try to build it into either the next meeting or a meeting further along during the semester to give you guys some good feedback. So just again, thanks all for coming.
Hi, I have one question. Is there any kind of reading resources that you can recommend that we can get into, kind of just to introduce ourselves
to Python generally, or to web scraping?
Web scraping.
So personally, I learned through a book called Automate the Boring Stuff. And that was a good introduction to web scraping for me. It also goes through some pretty basic Python code too, and that was very useful.
Thank you.
Sure. One of the things that I think we also want to focus on is a lot of this stuff ends up being done through trial and error. So we want to sort of help with the difficult trial and error things that are really hard to figure out on your own. Some things are really, really finicky and specific to the web pages that you're personally looking at. So we also are in the future workshops want to sort of help with those things specifically.
So earlier you said something about downloading the wrong driver. Did we all download the wrong driver, or?
No, something happened with, you probably have the right driver, I have the wrong. Because mine is old and Chrome has updated since I downloaded Chrome driver, and it just needs to be updated on my machine for it to actually work again. Because the Chrome driver version and Chrome itself are mismatched.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Can you, can you show us, like, what is it supposed to, how do we know that we downloaded everything correctly? Like, should it show up in the base root downloads, or?
Yeah, it should show up in the base. If you search, I guess if you update the index and then search for Chrome driver, that should show up. And the big thing that you want to be able to do is that code that Todd shared at the end, you want to be able to remotely, through Python, open up a window in Chrome. And if you, through Python, can open the window in Chrome, then you know it's working. I'll paste that in the chat.
I could just I'll just send it to folks, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
So I think if that's everyone's questions, thank you so much for coming. I hope this has been helpful for y'all, and thanks for being patient about problems that Will and I are facing, but we'll try and get that figured out for the next workshop meeting. But yeah, keep an eye out for like any emails we'll send out, and if you have any ideas, like as Scott mentioned, please reach out to us. And you could also think of like me, Will, and Scott as resources for y'all on other questions related to computational social science as well. We should be, or the group as well. Just send the email to the listserv, and we will do our best. But thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.